Hello and welcome to Sheila Lives Out Loud. My name is Sheila Moniga. It's a pleasure that you're on this channel. Thank you for finding us. Please click subscribe and hit notification and catch up with us for brand new episodes every Monday. It's always great to hear feedback from you. So if there's something wonderful you've seen in this video, something that gave you pause to reflect and think, remember it's okay to share this video and we'd love to hear from you as well. So drop us a comment in the comment section below. And joining me for a conversation on this very last Monday of 2020 is Dr. Simon Kgondu, the Kenya Medics Association Secretary General. Daktari, it's been such a journey walking with you this year. How
Thank
are
you?
you?
I'm good. Thank you very much for having us. 2020 has really been the year, and we are grateful that we are still alive, and we are praying for those who may have gotten unwell, that they actually get better.
That's true. But thank you so much for being a voice of reason, of comfort, of explanation. You know, coronavirus, it's still something most of us can't wrap our heads around. And we have lost loved ones, we have lost opportunities, but we've also learned a lot across the year, not just about the disease and about the virus, but even about ourselves as human beings. About a week ago, I know doctors went on strike. So I'd like us to talk a little bit about the strike in this conversation. It's really a brief recap and summary of the journey we've all walked, and especially what happened last week. So let's kick things off with the doctors' strike.
Yeah, Sheila, industrial action by healthcare workers are usually a last resort. It's a last resort, and we need to look at it in this context. Industrial action is just meant to draw attention to items that may not have been sorted out by whoever needed them to sort them out. We as doctors actually postponed our industrial action. There has been other healthcare worker cadres who have actually been on strike. They include the nurses, the clinical officers, and actually we were to go on industrial action at about the same time. But as I told you, a strike is an action taken of last resort. So when the person you want to strike against calls you to the table, then you give them an opportunity to do so. So on December 7th, the government actually called the doctors' union, and they gave them 2 weeks of discussion. The other health workers felt that their needs were actually not addressed and actually went on a strike. And after 14 days of back and forth, then the strike actually kicked off. But for the doctors, it actually took a shorter time because, as I said, industrial action is a last resort. So when the person you are calling to action now actually seems to have the goodwill to actually address some of the issues, then it is only fair to call it off. That's the reason it was called off, because now the person who is supposed to address the issues actually called and said, okay, let's have this discussion and see what the way forward. So what happens in an industrial action, a paper called a return to work formula is signed, showing the steps that need to be taken after the strike is over.
All right. You've made mention of certain deliverables and certain things that you both agree on in the return to work formula. In brief summary, what are those things you have agreed with the government on?
With the onset of, and COVID-19 really brought that out, were issues on occupational health and safety. Occupational health and safety means that your employer should provide protection and a good working environment for you. In the context of Corona, it was noticed that health workers were at risk of contracting, of ill health, of hospital bills, and possibly death. So the main issues that were surrounding the discussions were on what is called like a medical cover. You see, if you are not able to afford the same treatment that you are helping people with, then that would it would beat the purpose of you actually going out there to save lives. So they were asking for a medical cover. Then with COVID-19, the possibility of death following contracting the disease while you are trying to treat others was real. And of course, when you're looking at those issues, yes, you have family and people who depend on you, and you don't want them to suffer in case, because the reality is that you may actually contract the disease and die.
Yeah.
So they were looking for what is called a cover to cover you in case of death, work injury benefits, and that. So those were the two main things. There were also other issues in between there, like for instance, you wanted personal protective equipment provided, and it's the employer who should provide.
Yeah.
And compensation for the same. So in this time of COVID, those three were the main issues, and you can see the importance of those three.
I know the nation was completely heartbroken to find out about the medic who died, and we all read the text message that he sent. It was coming from a very painful and a very bitter place, and rightly so, for what he had experienced. And we can only pray that going forward, we don't see any more of those cases. We really do stand with you as doctors and medics across all cadres. But I'd like us to now look forward, because in about a week's time, technically, as per directives that were issued earlier this, I think late this year, schools are meant to be opening in a matter of days. Are we ready?
It has come to the realization that eventually schools have to open. And as I had earlier alluded to, that the reason the measures were being taken, like closure of schools and things like that, was to give the institutions time to prepare for opening for two things. One, to ensure the institutions are able to prevent people from contracting the disease. And should they contract the disease, then they are ready to handle it. And now we are here. As in, we say COVID-19 again is a new disease. So we really may not know how it will behave again. But if it's still around, we anticipate a third wave with the school opening. But despite anticipating that, you cannot get the third wave until you open and see how you can live life with it. But there is already like a trial period that has already been done. If you remember well, Standard 4s and Standard 8s actually opened. And it is lessons from this opening of the Standard 4 and Standard 8 classes that we learn from. And some of the challenges that will face school opening during COVID-19 have actually come out of that. Things like social distancing within the infrastructure of some of the schools that are there has been shown to be an issue. But of course, the aim of bringing out those challenges is to solve them. Personally, I think the biggest game changer will be the mask. Yeah. If many of the school children can actually be able to wear a mask, then you find that probably to be one of the items that can actually be implemented. As the association, Kenya Medical Association, we are engaging in programs called Adopting a School. Adopting a School is whereby you have a health worker sort of like attached to schools so that they can give guidance on the health, what to do in the health in the situation we are in of COVID-19 in schools to prevent transmission of the virus, and if it's there, to show the schools what to do when should there be cases. And so the help of medics will be useful in the long run. So we actually urge school boards to incorporate medical teams into their boards, and that will help in opening. But for sure, we anticipate that there will be an increase in the number of coronavirus infections. But luckily, what we have seen is that children and the younger age group, do not get too much of the severe disease. We hope that continues, but that does not mean it is not possible for them to get the diseases.
Right.
There's a guideline that has been released by the Ministry of Health, and there are also Ministry of Health guidelines, which schools should attempt to follow. I think we should avoid this issue of saying, oh, we do not have money, we do not have ABCD, but everyone can play their part. A big part will be played by parents. I see it that way, of providing masks. So I think the role of parents would be providing masks, and probably, and especially when you have children of the lower age groups, probably the cloth masks that are labeled. You know, children like testing each other's masks, and the aim is to avoid people actually sharing masks, so to speak. So a label, probably the big name in front, would be useful for the younger children.
All right. Now we're going into one of the hottest months of the year, and water is always a problem at the beginning of the year in many estates. Now, asking for clean running water in schools, that's a conversation for a different platform. But we've heard about a new strain of the virus. What does this mean for us going forward?
Oh, yes. The UK and probably South Africa have reported a new strain. So again, we said COVID-19 is a new disease. So the new strain will show us what it means to be a new strain. But that said, respiratory illnesses, viruses mutate very fast. So it is not surprising that you will have a new strain. Even by the time we got COVID-19 in Kenya, we could actually identify 6 types of different types of COVID, and we're even thinking that maybe the ones who get severe disease is a different type. And our laboratories in Kenya are quite good in doing testing of such strains. So a new strain will always come. The viruses always mutate. A majority of the mutations, they mutate to a weaker strain. So we hope that it mutates to a weaker strain, but only research will show. Like, you need to see, oh, these people have gotten the virus. Is it this new strain, and what are the effects? So time will tell. Time will tell. I saw a South African release a statement saying that this new strain is first not from South Africa, and it's not necessarily a worse disease. So yes, speculation may be there, but I think the science and researchers will guide us on that.
All right. Now, another thing that's a hot ticket, especially as a Kenyan, is schools are opening, but we also will be getting to the end of yet another cycle of a lockdown with a curfew in place. In fact, there's been curfew throughout 2020, for most of 2020. Going forward with the curfew, does it work, or does it go against what we're all seeking to achieve in 2021? Does it make sense to open schools, yet you still have a lockdown?
We actually don't have a lockdown. A lockdown is where nothing moves, where you can't even go to the shop. So Kenya per se has never had a lockdown. We've had movement restrictions, and those are called curfews. A lot of the movement restrictions are put in place at night. The thinking behind that was that, as we all know, at night, it is when we go to the club, it is when we are taking our drink nicely in a crowded place, and it is where the Jerusalem starts increasing in volume as we continue midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. So the aim of that was actually to restrict a lot of the social events that occurs at night, where you're likely to have your guard down, so to speak, and what they call super spreader events. So the night curfew, so to speak, works. The problem, one problem that we are having and probably need to address, is to ensure that the administration do not misuse the night curfew. Like, we've had 1 or 2 stories of policemen locking people up, and it becomes now something else rather than enforcing curfew rules.
Mm-hmm.
I think the approach towards enforcing curfew should not be by policemen, it should be by education. Like if you find people in the evening, you should guide them that they go home and continue educating them rather than enforcing, which occasionally we've had maybe at some police stations, you may be locked up and actually get COVID. So the same thing that you're trying to prevent, then the enforcement measures make it worse. And we had seen this during the quarantine period, where quarantine was actually used like a
punishment.
As a punishment, and that is counterproductive to public health measures. I think we should continually educate people, even if you find them in areas you should not be using, I think, police to enforce public health measures. They can provide support, but we should also go towards the educating people rather than that. So movement restrictions, especially at night, they do work, and are just meant to prevent the super spreader events.
Okay. As we wind up our conversation, as we wind up 2020, I'd just like to give you an opportunity to your guidelines, your top cannot compromise, must not compromise rules of engagement.
I think what we have learned this year is that you must appreciate daily what you have, and you must minimize complaining, and that you must appreciate especially your family members. Tell them thank you, be happy for whatever you have, and should you want to have corrections, correct someone nicely, you see, and provide solutions. So in 2020, we have actually demonstrated that health is wealth. Your being healthy is the most important thing. You cannot do anything if you are unhealthy. And therefore, we need to agitate for good healthcare systems and to ensure that everyone is healthy. Also, in support of that, then we also need to ensure that people are economically able to survive. We had seen that the biggest reason why sometimes we have to go beyond the health measures like opening up is to enable people to survive. You know, it has shown that without going up there, you cannot earn a living. Therefore, we need to put social protection measures in place. And some of the social protection measures, in my view, would be top of this, strengthening the National Health Insurance Fund so that everyone walks around with a medical card such that they are not fearing to get ill and therefore go into extreme poverty. So for me, the lessons of this year is maintain your health, and we need to have social protection, and especially in healthcare, using a hospital insurance fund.
Thank you so much, Daktari. It's always a pleasure catching up with you. Thank you for being a steady guide and just helping us understand each and every twist and turn as and when it unfolded. What's your big plan for 2021? What do you wish for on a personal note?
2020, I'm increasing my obstetric practice. We realized that we need a bigger population, so we are encouraging people.
People to have children. I can see where this conversation is going.
Have more children, and we will take care of them and ensure that the mothers and the babies are healthy. And that's our passion.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I wish you a wonderful 2021. My regards to your family. Your lovely, lovely daughter, Melissa, is always team A in my books. But thank you again, and our regards to you and the entire medical fraternity, everybody in the medical field in Kenya. We think about you, we pray for you, and we wish you all the very best. Now, thank you for checking out this video. As always, I like to remind you to subscribe if you haven't already and hit notifications, share this video. Now, knowledge is power. Stay sane, stay safe. 2021 is coming at us. But if we've gotten through 2020, it's a big deal. Keep your head up, keep your faith on. It's going to be just fine. Until our next episode, live out loud in all that you do. Bye for now.